Hello, and today we'll begin Chapter 2 for Nerus. So the screen for the menu, well, for the main screen has changed, and it shows this fountain. As far as the sound, it's back to the same sound that it was in the prologue. So, could it mean that we're about to head back to Nerus? Maybe? Because his sound kind of associates with Nerus as his mansion, so. So we're done with Barty and Lisa. And this person apparently has been. They were in Elisa's room. I don't know if this person had anything to do with those explosions or not, but apparently he was in Elisa's room somehow, and then this device he has managed to put him in a different location, and, well, I don't know what else to say, but if you want to learn more about it, you can go to the last video I did that ended chapter 1. So just gonna go ahead and start chapter 2. Chapter 2, The Snake Crusher. Post-mortem. A burned man wakes up in an abandoned facility. He soon realizes that this location, the device he's holding, and even his own bodies are unfamiliar to him. His memory is gone. Utilizing the facility's strange devices, he sets off on a journey to look for himself. Difficulty low. Not much thinking is required of you. Sit down and observe helplessly as the truth unravels. Okay, so basically that's kind of what I'm at right now. I have no idea what's going on, but this person, he doesn't know who he is, and he's in some kind of facility. So chapter 2. A flash of light swallows everything as the water starts violently running through my feet. The tides calm down and the light gives place to a vast space much greater than the stuffy room I was in. I am surrounded by a body of water as large as the sea, with countless red threads emerging from it and rising endlessly into the sky. The horizon is populated by water and red lights as far as the eye can see. The sky is pitch black. There are no clouds or even stars in sight, only red stripes. As I take in the sight, the panic of something unexpected starts to settle. The last time the device activated, I lost consciousness and was shown some sort of vision, but now I got teleported to some strange location. Before I lose my mind, let's try to understand the situation. The earliest time I remember waking up was back in that dormitory. My memory is 2 months of a mess back then, but thinking about it now, I realize I have been reliving those few days, at least in bodies spent in Smith's Abbey. When I fell back asleep, presumably upon coming into contact with this device, the visit went on until they solved their case. Only then I woke up and was able to leave the room. Is that all? No, I do remember seeing something before binding Elisa, Nerus and Sax's story, but that ended rather abruptly, and I can't remember it as clearly. The very last moments, right before Sax died, feel especially fuzzy. I don't know what that thing that chased me after leaving the room is, and if it's related to my situation. But regardless, I was guided to both safety and what I thought was the next vision to be shown to me. Is that the point of it all, to show me these events? I do seem to be going through an amnesiac episode, so maybe I'm here to restore my memories, or is that too naive of a thought? Should I assume I'm in danger and be suspicious of what is being shown to me? And how does this place fit in all this? My eyes travel to the device in my hand. Why did it take me here, instead of showing me something? I inspect my surroundings and look up at the sky. That's when I see the most strange thing yet, far up. There's a point at which the threads start to split and twist in unnatural ways, becoming more like branches or perhaps roots, before converging in a single point. They twist and tangle together until they form layer upon layer of red, saving up into a massive red tree floating high up in the sky. The tree gives off a somewhat relaxed air, floating there, being held up only by these thin threads despite its massive size. Nothing has been making sense since I woke up in that dark room, so why not throw the laws of gravity out of the window too? That looks interesting, I suppose, I say as I start walking toward it. I soon notice that I'm not getting closer to the tree at all. Confusion and frustration swell up inside of me, but I inhale a long breath and try to cool down. Becoming hysterical won't help me. First, I need to make sure I'm not imagining or seeing things wrong. I turn back and memorize the location of the threads closest to me before I sprint toward the tree. After a while, I haven't gotten any closer to the large red body. When I look back, I see that the threads are still in the same position I remember them being. I can't make any logical sense out of it, but it would seem I'm unable to move from this position. Just, what is going on? I ask in between gasps. It's then that the white device vibrates, and what happens next startles me enough to make me jump. A voice comes out of it. Welcome to the carcass. How may I be of service? A high-pitched voice garbled voice comes out. The carcass, I ignore the ominous sounding name and bring the little machine to my face. The screen is still black, but I have no doubt the voice came from this thing. What is this place? You are currently located in record stores in 36184092237. I wait for it to finish spewing that number before asking my next question. Record stores, is that part of a larger facility? I'm not sure to what degree you could call this area part of a facility, but that's what the voice is implying. Failure to parse statement. Could you rephrase that? Is this some kind of prison or factory? What kind of device is this anyway? I asked in a slightly irritated tone. Failure to parse statement. Perhaps you meant to ask about 1. The carcass, 2. Record stores in 36184092237, 3. The time egg. This seems very stupid. I'm supposed to ask one question at a time. Tell me about the carcass. After a second, the device came back to life. The carcass is a facility counting with the latest advancements in solar technology and magic, as well as terraforming and steel producing tools. We also count with a large library of records. What a diverse facility. Can't help but feel disappointed by that answer, however. That word soup means nothing to me. Who runs this facility? I asked, trying to get more meaningful information. The idea that I was kidnapped and locked up by someone has been circulating in my head from the start. And if that was the case, maybe I'll remember something if I know who this facility belongs to. I'm afraid I don't understand this question. Would you like to ask me something else? Of course, I shake my head. Tell me about this record storage location then. Record storage N3618409237 contains memories from planet Earth 3041 AD or events related to that date. But was that not what I was watching in the other room? Very apart statement. Could you rephrase that? A jolt of suspicion runs down my spine, filling me with cold feeling. I suddenly remember that, as I was entering this place, I briefly detected another presence. That detail, alongside the way the machine refuses to answer most of my questions, makes me to consider that perhaps the second presence had concealed itself within the machine somehow. Am I being paranoid? It wouldn't be crazier than anything that has happened so far. Can I trust that all this about the record storage is made up? Let's call this presence Mr. X. Mr. X could be an incompetent customer service AI, or it could be someone talking through this device pretending to be that. Even if the second is true, for now, I'll still play along and pay attention to what Mr. X is willing to reveal to me. I'm afraid that without instructions I won't be able to escape this place, or that something else dangerous will come along and I'll be on my own. There's no reason to risk getting into more trouble yet. Try to gather information and wait for the right time to act. Fine. What is this time egg? What are you holding in the time egg? Is it a device designed to decipher and read the weird threads in record storage? It would seem until recently this time egg was set to automatic mode. Oh, what's that? When in automatic mode, a time egg will take the user through the requested set of records, assuming they are available. This particular time egg was set to return to manual mode after the last record finished playback. This all sounds very convenient. If I understand right, then I was being pulled into this space and something while unconscious. Perhaps this isn't my first visit to this place, but the first time I'm here while awake. Anyway, it feels as if this strange person judged I had matured enough to be left to my own devices. But what am I supposed to do now? How do I use this time egg? You may see a large space around you. There are other record storage rooms. While visible, they are not accessible except through the appropriate terminals. You still, however, be able to access the threads corresponding to record storage. Yes, start with a stupid number. I am pleasantly surprised to actually hear it stop. This increases the chances of this being someone trying to trick me into thinking they are an AI, but I decide to let it slide. You simply need to attach the time edge to a thread, and you will be prompted to select this desired record. I walk to the nearest set of threads. It seems like these are the only ones I can physically get closer to. Hesitant, I raise the time egg and touch one of the threads with it. Like a knife cutting through the midst, the thread cuts through the egg until it's going through the center, then the screen turns on. electile gas as the thread unravels into many smaller ones, and the time egg projects some sort of graphic right in front of me. The egg is stuck in place, so I let go of it and take a step back. What is this? Some sort of timeline? There seems to be some branching, but it all merges back together soon after, and there are dates written off to the side. The obnoxious machine speaks once again. Warning, analysis of recent conversation logs reveals a lack of training and or cognitive capabilities for the user. Would you like to activate tutorial mode? I'm tempted to punch the damn thing, but in my feeble physical state, I will only hurt myself. Yes, whatever. This display shows the records currently stored within the time egg in their approximate chronological order. You can select whichever record you wish to review by tapping it or swipe it to review older records. It is also possible to hide unwanted records. In order to aid you in your education from now on, these conversations will also be recorded in the form of logs to revisit in the user's convenience. The time egg will also record the user's cognitive process in order to further improve the user experience. By swiping to your left, you will be able to access future features. I sat through a rather lengthy explanation of the time of the egg's features. I didn't understand most of what the machine was saying, but it did mention it was being recorded, so I opened a new menu the way it had structured and tapped the backlog button to review it. I sat through a rather lengthy explanation of the egg's features I didn't understand most, I closed the backlog. I decided it would be best to get by without it. Anyway, you mentioned all records currently stored are in here. Is the story I just watched about the Abbey mystery still here? Failure to parse statement. I assessed the damn thing and checked if that's the case myself, but as I swiped down, a bewildered frown starts forming on my face. There's a record corresponding to the time of the Abbey murder incident, yes, but there's so much more. Further down, more branches lead to the Abbey incident, and nearly at the bottom is Sachs and Nerus' story, almost 1,000 years before everything else. But what really catches my eye is a single record below even that, from a unspecified date. I try to tap it, but the time egg only lets out a loud buzz in response. Warning, data corrupted. What happened to it? The time egg was unable to recover all data after a deletion attempt. I suppose I can't check this record, but I'll try to remember this. Was it me that tried to delete it, or did someone else use this time egg before I did? That question might hold a clue about my predicament. Would you like me to finish the deletion process? No, leave it be. I say as I go over the timeline again. I cast a single strange detail. There is some symbol on top of the records of Sachs and Nerus' story. Is that a pause icon? What does this icon mean? The playback for this record was interrupted before it reached completion. Oh? Can I resume it? I received an affirmative answer from the time egg, and then I stopped to consider my options. It seems that in addition to the records retrieved from this thread, I still have unseen records from and after the first story. Thinking about it, it felt as if something was missing while I witnessed Body and Lisa's story, especially at the end when Frank turned into a descendant. Since I was sung one after the other, I don't think it's a stretch to say there must be a connection between the two stories I saw so far. Not to mention as faint as they are, there are some parallels I can draw between them. For instance, let's look at Body and Elisa. Body is a crafty crocodile with a strained relationship with his family who ran away to look for a bearer for a different profession. Elisa is an albino with a reserved personality that only really seems to appreciate her reptilian partner. The nature of their relationship is different, but there are some parallels you can trace between them and Sax and Nerus. The deepest connection, at least a dreamed some of Nerus' memories and perceived some link between Sax and Frank. It isn't much, but I can't ignore the fact that there are enough similarities for me to notice in the first place. We could say there aren't similarities that haven't become apparent yet. I might be grasping at straws, but as long as I have as little information as I do, I can't afford to discard any possibility. Leaving that aside, those speaking of demons on earth remind me about how the Sages would speak about angels. Sax mentioned that Satan activity produces some sort of long-term damage to mortal worlds. Could the Sages be the demons who are blamed for the rock monsters on Earth? If we go even further, maybe the Sages are to blame for Earth's ruined state in 3041 AD somehow. Anyway, there's tissue connecting both stories, but I don't know anything about it. Perhaps the answer to this mystery lies in the events leading to the Second Battle of the Aeon. Well, one way to find out. I didn't have any use for them, so following the proceedings instructions, I hid the records for the Abbey murder incident and the corrupted record. Then I got to work. Okay, so here's some screens here. So this is 2151 to 3020 AD. This is 3041. This is doing Body and Lisa's time here. And this is 1,000 years before the Body and Lisa's time. And this looks just like Nerus' bedroom, so. And this is Sax and Nerus' time here, so. Looks like we're going to see Nerus again, I guess. So I guess once we finish this part here, I guess this one and the others will eventually pop up also once we are done with this part here. So I'll press this here. Initializing playback. I felt someone nudging me, so I slowly opened my eyes. Before my vision could refocus, my nose was already being assaulted by a mix of contradictory smells. A soft soap cologne mixed with an acidic stomach churning stench. The white fur and the black shoulder above me both came into focus. Nerus was holding me close to his chest, fall fast asleep. What a weird sight it was. He was slumbering with his clothes on. How long had passed since I sensed life evaporating from me? Since my transformation was complete, putting an end to Sax and bringing me back? Despite how uncomfortable I felt, dirty and smelling like a corpse, my mind was lucid, and the scene I found myself in made perfect sense to me. That could only mean I had succeeded. I had exceeded my body's limits, gathering my identity for a chance to remember my time as Sax. But in the end, I had emerged as the victor. I got a little scared at how raspy the cackle that came out of my throat sounded. Hundreds of feathers and scales were pulling inside my shirt and on my back, making a squishing sound when I moved. What a macabre waterbed. I appreciated Nerus' cuddles, but this was unacceptable. At this rate, I was going to leave him stinking like death as well. I needed to cleanse myself. Slowly I took a hold of his arm and lifted it. Nerus was easily capable of overpowering me, but even I could handle him if he was asleep like this, although he was still very heavy. Free from his grip, I patted Nerus on the head before jumping off the bed. I threw my arms high up, stretching my still sore muscles. My bones were popping back into place, awakening from their long 200 years of sleep. Just 200 years, but it felt much longer than that. Being so many sisters had taught me nothing could beat the feeling of one's original body. I would need to be extra silent. I didn't want to alert several of my presence before waking Nerus up. I plugged the bathtub and started filling it with water while I took off my sticky clothes. I submerged myself in the water and enjoyed its warmth. It was so nice how big everything at Nerus' home was. I started thinking about home, and I wondered how my siblings were doing. They were probably fine. The descendants were too dutiful to let something like the death of some of their brothers distract them from their sacred duty. They were similar to sisters in that sense. At least that's what I wanted to believe. I was fine. They didn't need to shed any tears for me. How many of them knew we were alive all along? Well, several definitely must have known, I thought. And he wouldn't have let our brothers mourn in vain, right? If he did, I need to give him a good scolding. I cackled again, relishing in images of his reaction once he learned I had kept my memories. I had managed to keep my memories, yes. That last thought was like a needle piercing the bubble of nostalgia containing my thoughts. The most likely truth was that not many knew I and the others had survived. That was the impression I had gotten from that conversation I had with him right before my sickness worsened. What I did wasn't a little added mischief. The fact we were alive was a secret, or rather the fact we had been alive as shapeshifters. Before the Battle of Aeon, I was little more than a common soldier, but my intuition told me things had changed. I wasn't going to be the same old Obley they knew anymore. I would have to carry the burden of many lives as a Soronesiac shapeshifter, and the knowledge I wasn't supposed to possess as a descendant. Osiris wouldn't be happy about this. Would I take the mantle of the rebellious brother from now on, much like Sax was his family's problem child? Archetypes still worked in funny ways. But that didn't mean our relationship had to change, right? My brothers would receive me with open arms as they always did. I wanted to see them again. While drying myself with a towel, I stepped out of the bathroom. I was wondering if my Sax clothes would still fit me. I hadn't grown that much, if at all. But my train of thought was interrupted by an aghast Nerus, wide awake and staring at the spot where I had been lying dead. As if snapping out of a trance, he glared at me when I stepped into the dormitory. It only took a moment for him to start shifting in a way all too familiar. I immediately jumped out of the way. Nerus leaped forward like a bullet, flying through the still open bathroom door before crashing against the wall. It sounded like he crashed against the sink, throwing everything on top to the floor. The moment I stuck my head out of the door, a huge white hand grabbed me by the nape and lifted me. I let go of the towel and hung limply from Nerus' hand, not offering any resistance. In fact, I had a wide grin on my face. Where is he? Sparks started coming out of his free hand, growing in intensity until they turned into a moving mass of fire. Right here. Nerus frowned and seemed to be threatening to touch me with that fiery hand. Imagine how he could reduce me to smithereens if he wished to fill me with a most peculiar warmth. Alas, it wasn't the time for that. I blinked and showed him my tongue. You hurt me, Nerus. It's been just a little while. You already don't remember me? I suppose it has been closer to 200 years since you last saw me like this. What? The flames on Nerus' hand dissipated as he lifted me to eye level. He squinted, rattling that dusty old plane of his. His eyes then opened wide and his jaw fell to the floor. Wait, it's you. Yes, I'm very sorry I stopped going to our little secret meetings. I was busy being dead. And then being struck as an amnesiac safe center. I extended my arms to him, but Nerus was too dazed to interpret my little request for attention. I do not understand, but are you responsible for Sax disappearing? Anyway, I guess. Look into my eyes, Nerus. We talked about it, remember? The eyes are the window of the soul, correct? What the? Nerus was too soft to even form an answer or answer to my request, so I took the initiative. I clung to his arm and sneaked free from his grip. Then I swung my body and threw myself at him, landing on his chest with a hug. Nerus. He jumped, flustered. After a moment, I felt his arms wrap around me, gently pushing me closer to him. Hey, guess what? Yes. I looked up at his face, and slowly I climbed a bit higher and started unbuttoning his clothes. He's weak. Why don't you change? You should change his seats too. The big wolf was at a loss of words, utterly perplexed. I even saw his eyes twitch a little. What good memories that brought back. Yeah, sorry, Nerus. I didn't mean to bully you. I still put up my thoughts in order. I see. But do tell me one thing. Are you truly Sax? I am. But how does that make any sense? You are an angel, indeed. Nerus' thoughts trailed off, and he fell into an awkward silence. I still don't understand it completely myself, but I do have some theories. Don't worry, I'm already cooking up something that'll help us answer all the questions we have. I just need a little time. We only need to ask that certain uninvited guest. Sax. No, Obley, remember it. Yes, forgive me. Getting answers doesn't matter to me, not right now. I may take a bath too and change my clothes. Then we can get comfortable, and once you're comfortable, we can do something together. Let's share a quiet moment together, as we always do. I rested my head on his chest, taking his heat and hugging his neck as I considered his offer. Was this the same cologne he usually wore? Once I blocked out all the other smells, I noticed how much sweeter it seemed. I don't know. I think I changed my mind. I don't want to let go, so you can't bathe now. Stand still right now. Until I've had my fill of cuddles. I was not asking, said Obley. Before I could retort, every nerve in my body exploded in electricity at once. That Nerus still remembered the one weakness of the descendants that I had taught him. To think he would immediately use it against me. Now, let go of me, boy. Smartness dripped from his words as he tugged from my tail rather harshly. Only now I was starting to feel self-conscious of the fact I was still naked as he held me. I realized it was a very intimate position to be in. All right, please stop that. Just put me down, patting my head. But I do share the sentiment. If possible, I would rather stay near you. It is as if he was afraid and would vanish at any moment. I interrupted him. He didn't need to finish saying it. We haven't shared a bath together yet. That could be exciting. Where did all the sex excitement disappear to, I wonder? I was about to come up with a witty retort when I noticed a change in Nerus' eyes. He knelt and pulled me close again. It was gentle, and he wouldn't let go unless I said something. As he snuggled against my head and shoulder, I noticed just how matted the fur on his face had become. And as if to add to the mess, as the reality of the situation settled down, the dam holding back his emotions finally broke down. I'm here, Nerus, and I'm not leaving. I whispered to him, eyes closed and my arms wrapped around his neck once more. I patted the back of his head as if to remind him of my presence while I waited for him to let it all out. Neither of us kept track of time. After his thoughts subsided, he cleaned his face and urged me to follow him to his dormitory. We took off hand in hand. I silently apologized to Cephals, as he would end up being the one to clean the mess I had made out of my room. I'm at a loss for words, so I'll just... This is a memory. I give myself that reminder because watching it firsthand and standing in this corridor makes it feel much more real. Like I'm traveling back in time rather than watching a recording. But no one can see me or sense my presence in the world moves on its own accord despite me sitting still. If it wasn't for those obvious tells, I would be fooled into thinking I'm in the past. I didn't expect this, but it makes sense. This is what it must be like to watch a recording while being conscious. That realization helps me gather my wits, and so I continue watching in silence. That machine could have warned me about this, but I suppose it isn't the first time it assumes I know things I don't. I don't like that I'm already getting used to that, but what am I going to do about it? After a long bath and relaxing on Nerus' silky, clean bed for a while, I went to retrieve a pair of pants and a shirt from my dormitory, and we descended into the parlor to summon Cephals. He seemed most surprised to see me at first, and even as I explained the situation, he wouldn't stop asking trick questions and expose me as an imposter. It took a while, but eventually his expression softened and he sat down with us. Lord Obley, correct? What are you doing? What are you going to do from now on? Me and Lord Nerus may believe you, but the other safe sisters won't be convinced of you being sacked so easily. If you consider that, what will you do from now on? That's true, I won't be able to work as Nerus' warper anymore. Will you need to find a replacement? We hired a freelancer while you were sick. He only comes at the agreed time to pick or drop a package. Oh, there's no problem then. I'll just stay holed up here forever. If you try to kick me out, I'll just knock on the window while you try to sleep until you let me in here. Cephals gave Nerus a look I didn't understand. The bigger safe sister swelled and sipped from his wine. Incidentally, you said you weren't sure of what happened to you, correct, Obley? Or why you were reborn as a safe sitter. I have a good hypothesis, but rather than boring you with something that might be pointless, I think we should ask someone who knows for sure. This time the two of them exchanged looks before returning their attention to me. Who could you be talking about? Have you noticed someone's been breaking into the mansion as of late, Nerus? His ears wiggled. I have a hunch, but I was never able to catch him in the act. His name is Lacusti. He came here a couple of times to check on me. I think we could make him willing to answer our questions if we can capture him. Oh, we happen to have a plan. The descendants know a thing or two about trials, as I'm sure you're aware. The one thing I can tell you for certain right now is that all of us who were affected by Soulnesia were descendants in hiding. Nerus nodded, half lost in his thoughts. Then the Soulnesia patients are being made advantage to hide this from the safe sisters. I wanted to add that it was likely this was being hidden from other descendants as well, but that was still speculation on my part. Nerus' expression turned slightly somber. That must have been when he realized it. Right after the Battle of Aeon, where many descendants were killed permanently, Soulnesiacs, descendants in hiding started popping up among the safe sisters. I had to admit to him that I had died and been stuck as a safe sister ever since. It wasn't hard to figure out what killed me. He had even more questions now, but he agreed that my idea would be a smoother course of action. I wasn't a reliable source of information with so many details still unknown to me. I got up from my seat and addressed Sevils. Sevils, could you bring me some paper and something to write, please? I'll go to the kitchen to look for something I'll need. Wait for me outside near the front door. As you wish, Lord Obley. Sevils didn't waste any time and left the parlor to tend to my request. I walked over to the door and then turned to Nerus. What are you waiting for, Nerus? Let's go. The way safe sister gulped down the last of his wine and got up. My light footsteps were followed by his much heavier ones on the way to the kitchen. Forgive us for the way, Sevils. Obley kept insisting on climbing on top of the sink. Oh, he does that all the time when helping me cook. Nerus shook his head with disapproval at Sevils and I cackled. Armed with the marker the servant got for me, I crouched down on the asphalt in front of the entrance and got to work. Nerus looked over my shoulder while I drew a circle and started filling it with lines, shapes, and symbols. Could this be one of those infamous descendant seals? Well, yes, this will intercept anyone trying to use warping magic in the vicinity. I took a few minutes to make sure everything was in place. After a second, I added one last detail, 4 letters. For being cheeky, aren't we? I grinned, hopping into the circle and making my best effort to adopt a tone of voice as sweet sounding as possible. It came out too high-pitched, but I rolled with it. Oh my, it seems I stepped into the circle by accident. It's no use, the magic binds me so I'm at your service now, Nerus. There's nothing I can hide from you and nothing I can refuse to do for you. I am in so much trouble. Nerus closed his eyes as if suddenly feeling tired and patted my head the same way he'd always do when ruffling my feathers of sex. I do not require a magic circle to make you do what you want. A few back rubs and some praise are plenty. Still, are you sure you don't want to take advantage of this one in a million chance, The big station opened his eyes, looking somber all of a sudden. He leaned closer to not let Sevils, who was respectfully witnessing the scene, listen to our conversation. 1 in a million chance. Don't be silly. I'll create as many chances as I want. I'm glad you're back, Obley. Even if you look and act a little different, in fact, it's very nostalgic. I'm still very fond of the time we shared when we first met. Next time we're alone, I'll make sure to show you how grateful I am for this chance to still be with you, and that I don't love you any less now than I did before. My heart's good to be. Nerus wasn't intentionally trying to pluck my heartstrings. I could tell from his tone of voice he was being honest. Yet those words slipped by the walls of uncertainty that had formed and around my heart, burying themselves deep within it like an arrow. I wonder if he realized the degree to which his words put me at ease, much like mine did to him. He got back just enough to stare into my eyes and when he found exactly what he was looking for in them, he caressed my back and planted a kiss on my forehead. Now, be a good boy, bring this friend of yours to us, alright? Oh, yeah, sorry, I suppose it isn't the time to be playing around, hehe. With my face burning and my heart still feeling like it would jump out of my chest at any moment, I turned around and started rubbing my hands together. What now? All these kinds of circles require salt to work. You've been consuming too much mortal media, Nerus. That's silly folklore. Wing sparks went flying between my hands, which, like butterflies fluttering their wings, got larger and began flying around me. The green energy eventually fused into a large, jelly-like ball, which then I pressed into the circle I had drawn. The marker changed from black to a bright green, shining with power. Once the magic circle was done, both Nerus and Seville stepped closer. I got up with a proud smirk. Living Glycussy in is all that's left. How can we accomplish that? You must know my transformation is complete by now, probably. I figure he'll come any moment now. Would you like me to sit a few seats while we wait? I realized up until then I hadn't asked what time it was. The time for dinner was drawing near. Nerus asked Seville to prepare something simple and brought 3 chairs from the dining hall. The 2 of us sat near the circle waiting for the Glycussy to show up. We waited mostly in silence, but Nerus took notice I was looking at him for a long time. He reached out and petted me. Seville joined us soon enough, pushed a cart loaded with food, warm soup, sandwiches packed with eggs and vegetables, and lots of steaks, a side dish made out of the leftover pasta, meat, and sauce. It wasn't the sort of food Seville usually prepared, but it felt comfy and heartwarming on this occasion of the 3 of us eating inside. I could only imagine it was even more meaningful for them who had feared we'd never be able to eat together again. Nerus ignored the sandwiches, choosing to instead eat most of the steaks. Seville's probably foresaw this, seeing how many of them he prepared. He and I ate the sandwiches, and after some convincing, we got Nerus to join us for some soup. He seemed to like it because he drank most of it afterward. However, he felt guilty about being such a glutton and told us he was full, leaving all the pasta for us. A long while after we were done eating and Seville's returned from washing the dishes, there was still no sign of Glycussy. Nerus was telling me about how work had been these last few days when I realized a thick mist was flowing in from somewhere. The other 2 also noticed it. What is this? He's coming. The magic circle was engulfed by a blinding light which, like a vacuum, started pulling in all the mist around us. What on? The light dissipated and a blue descendant came into view. The Glycussy fell on his butt to the floor, and before he could understand what was happening, Nerus jumped on him, twisted both his arms behind his back and holding him in place. For Nerus, this wasn't any harder than handling a tiny, misbehaving kitten. What is this? Relax, Glycussy. It'll all be over soon. Obly. I reached into the bag we had brought from the kitchen a few hours prior. When dealing with descendants, there were certain precautions one had to take. First of all, you had to block their gills. They weren't for breathing, but for expelling the magic mist that allowed us to perform certain kinds of magic. Which is why we had brought a tape roll from the kitchen. With Nerus breathing down his neck and holding his arms, Glycussy could do little more than watch with teary eyes as I taped his gills shut. Why are you doing this? Nothing personal, brother. I am not holding a grudge over you, leaving me to agonize as I rotted alive. Not at all. And that comment Lucchesi could do nothing but put on a painfully awkward smile. And there was something in the inquisitive look, as if questioning if this was necessary or if I was being sadistic for the sake of revenge. But my nodding was reassuring enough. I was just trying to scare him, to make it seem like we were going to torture him, only to offer him an out at the last second by telling him to confess everything he knew about the soul. We stood the bag, which Severus was so kindly holding open for me, and I took out 2 pieces of cotton that I then used to block my nostrils. The look of unease and anticipation on Lucchesi's face transformed to horror once he saw what I took out next. That's both of the safe senses frowned slightly. Why was Lucchesi so terrified of a simple lemon? Of course, they didn't share our sense of smell, so they wouldn't know how vile the stench was for us descendants. I had thought I'd feel terrible using this against Lucchesi, but much to my surprise, it was surprisingly easy. There wasn't any guilt at all. Perhaps Nerus had been onto something. I grabbed a knife from the bag and used it to cut the lemon in half. Then I started making my way to Lucchesi. He was crying inconsolably. Now there was this heavy, uncomfortable ball of guilt becoming bigger in my stomach. I'm sorry, I didn't want to leave you alone, Obley, but Osero said. I stopped interrupting him before he could finish, so I nudged him to continue. Are you really sorry? Yes. And you think I can take your word for that? Well, who knows? Maybe there is something we can do to prove it. Say, why was that happen to me? Huh? I'm talking about Sonesia. Tell us about it and we might forgive you. A subtle hesitation loomed over Lucchesi's face, but it quickly went away when I threatened to get the cut lemon anywhere near him. Let me know how terrible I was. He agreed to tell us everything. Nerus let go of him, his stark face showing a hint of disturbance from us, making Lucchesi cry. It was a bit funny to me, knowing Nerus was no stranger to reducing descendants to a crisp whenever he got involved in a fight with them. Swiftly killing a descendant means that he'll regenerate later. Perhaps no even remembering what happened to him. From Nerus' perspective, this act of bullying might have been much meaner. I shook my head violently. It wasn't a time to think about something I wouldn't understand. Anyway, calm down, Lucchesi. If you answer our questions, everything will be alright. Okay, but what do you want to know? Tell us all you know, from the beginning. Lucchesi wiped his face with his sleeve and nodded. It all started 200 years ago, with the first battle of the Aeon. The shapeshifters attacked. It was ultimately frustrated, yes, but we still had to pay an enormous price. The Aeon managed to wipe out many descendants, damaging their souls so that they couldn't regenerate. We didn't know what would happen to them. Make no mistake, their souls were still that of descendants, but it was like they had been made to behave like mortal souls. Would they reincarnate into brand new descendants? Would they go through the Gnosis process and fade away? Either way, it was clear the people they were would be lost forever unless we did something. Then Oceros told us to leave everything to him, and that was all for a long while. We didn't know what he had done until a few years later when he gathered me and a few others to tell us the truth. Those who fell during the battle of the Aeon had faded away. They said Oceros put a spell on their souls so they would be reborn in safe-centers bodies. I believe he safe-centers say there are 2 generations of soul amnesiacs, yes? The first generation aged and died because the damage done to their souls made them virtually identical to mortals. Then they reincarnated as fresh safe-centers and repeated the process. Fresh might not be the right word. Let's look at Obley for example. I'm not aware of the circumstances of your life as Caesar to Obley. If we went over the clinical records for all deceased Soronesiacs, we would find at least a couple that led a life just like yours. All, or at least many of them would have been reincarnating. Osiris couldn't prevent memory loss, but moving the soul to a new body without time for it to change preserves your accidents. That's why you are still you. Moving on, once the souls recovered, the Soronesiacs became ageless again. This was the second generation of Soronesiacs. Normally, the forgetting symptom should have disappeared alongside the aging symptom, but it didn't because of Elsel's spell. Elsel's Soronesian spell had three effects. To make the soul be reborn in a state of the body. This way their souls would have enough time to heal and they wouldn't fade away. Recall switch. This is what was used to turn them back into descendants and the reason they fell sick recently. And finally, a memory eraser component. This is the cause of the forgetting symptom for the second generation Soronesiacs, but the intended effect was to make the descendant forget they were ever reincarnated as satiators. Although you managed to find a way to bypass the third part of the spell, right? When I started regaining my first few memories as Obley, I realized it was pretty strange. When did you start remembering? It was around the time Nomino informed you about the second battle of the Aeon. Anyway, I ended up reasoning out with what the cussing had told us so far, more or less. I wasn't sure about the memory eraser part, but once the news about Soronesia patients vanishing arrived, I was certain. I thought if they did remember their life as Satan as well, some of them might have wanted to stay behind, right? Some of them did, which caused the spell to go out the more they resisted the transformation. But no one was crazy enough to try what you did. Nerus raised an eyebrow. What do you do exactly? Think about it this way, Nerus. Osiris' objective with this ploy was to save me and the other descendants that were struck down by the Aeon. The way Lacusti described it, the memory eraser part of the spell comes after the transformation is complete. But what would happen if, because of some abnormality, the descendant recovered most of his memories before the transformation was complete? It was a no-brainer. In that case, most of the memories and descendants would be deleted as well. Memories are an important component of each person. If you wipe someone's memory clean, that would guarantee there would be that they would live through the same experiences and grow into the same person twice. Despite everyone's souls having their accidents, even the results of these may vary. In other words, the spell might as well be killing that descendant. Nerus' eyes reflected, understanding one moment and shocked the next when he realized what I was getting at. Accidents, abnormalities, even sabotage. Osiris didn't ignore the chance of any of these happening. Again, didn't have any way to check if I was right until the deed was done, so I wasn't sure it would work, but I thought if I became that state-sitter that would remember most of his life as a descendant, there should be a fail-safe that would prevent the third part of the spell from activating. You're scary, Obley. What if you were wrong? You would have gone through all that just to be erased? I figured if that was the case, you would have tried harder to stop me. It seemed risky, but luck was on my side. Then, why didn't you tell us? Nerus clenched his tongue after he accidentally said out loud what he was thinking. He asked us to forget about it and to continue with the interrogation. I felt pains and guilt, but conceded to his request. I wanted to talk about it, but now it wasn't the right moment. Wasn't sure when it would be. However, the question had still thrown me off, and I was now drawing a blank as to what the next question should be. So Nerus asked it first. Look, correct. Why break into our mansion earlier. But well, at first it was because Obi had finally been re-added to Sornizak Registry, so I came one night just to check on him. Later I returned to trigger his recall and then to try to convince him to let the transformation happen. Wait, did you come because of the Sornizak Registry? Oh, I hadn't mentioned that yet. That's how Osiris made us keep track of the Sornizaks. We simply used the State Center's registry. The great State Center's face became somber for a moment, but then he shook his head like a disappointed parent and patted Akasi on the shoulder to calm her down. It only made him more uncomfortable because Akasi knows I was glaring at him, though. It would seem that the Senate spies are much more insidious than we thought. One last thing, Akasi. The reason the recall happened is the opposing second battle of the Aeon, correct? Yeah, talk about espionage that got leaked to us as well. And Sales wanted us to be prepared as possible, so he ordered a recall. Interesting. I have one more request for you. Then, what could it be? Where's the source now? He's on Earth. He's helping with the preparations for the battle. Do you mind taking us to him now? Nerus and Savos joined the cussing and giving me dubious looks. I could take you to him, but the two State Centers too? I'm not built for adventure, Lord Obley. I would prefer to stay and take care of the mansion while you're out. I understand. What about you, Nerus? I imagine you must have a good reason to want this, even if I can't fathom one. I don't think anyone will immediately attack you. You could make the place go up in flames and revolt. They'd be too scared to try. When they see you with me and the cussing, they'll notice something is up. Neil still looked troubled, but he agreed nevertheless. The cussing might have not wanted to go along with this, but he didn't have a choice. I still have my memories at Sats, Lacussy. If you don't want to take us there, I can do it instead. But if the three of us arrive at the base together, then there's less of a chance of trouble breaking out. Don't you agree? I'm not planning anything bad. We are descendants. We don't have the heart to betray our brothers. Yes, but as long as you think it's going to be alright, it will, trust me. I helped Lacussy remove the tape off his gills and I patted him on the head. Well, we'll be back later, Sevils. It'll just take an hour or two if it goes well. I see. Best of luck to you. We stood near Lacussy, his gills open and smelling the gray mist that had visited me every once in a while since I started living under Nerus's roof. Or, more accurately, after Nerus added me to the Sornizak Registry. The world around us became unfocused and twisted. Lacussy's warping felt very different from mine, which was instant. My vision grew cloudy and I felt extremely light for a moment. But soon the mist around us dispersed, gravity started weighing down on us again, and we found ourselves in a different location. It was a large circular room. Countless descendants, all wearing robes like the Cussies, were sitting nearby or in the middle of walking somewhere else. The moment they noticed us, however, their eyes stabbed us like daggers, or they stabbed Nerus, rather. It's okay, everyone. Don't let us distract you. He turned toward us, with an urgent expression. Come on, you two, hurry. We hastily made our way out of the main chamber. Nerus didn't seem to mind the countless stairs, but the restrained way he moved betrayed some caution. He also seemed to have trouble fitting through the doorways they came across. This place wasn't meant for his dimensions. Lacussy hurried us along, walking a few steps ahead of us to introduce us to the descendants we came across, although I already knew some of them. They must have been transformed for the base we used to work at. On that topic, I was expecting to arrive there when the cussy walked us here. It made it made sense we didn't, since it had been destroyed during the first battle. Its remnants were probably still in the second moon. Anyway, if they weren't intimidated by Nerus, they would have been some heartfelt reunions. We went upstairs and arrived at a large meeting room. There were only a few descendants there. A tall black and white descendant with frills coming out of the sides of his head stood out. His expression didn't move an inch when he noticed us. He got up from his seat and greeted us. "Welcome back, Oblivion. You took your time returning to us." I hadn't meant to, but I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Yes, it's nice to see you again ourselves. He then greeted Lacussy and finally looked at Nerus. "And why is he here?" "I'm here at Oba's request. I believe we have not met before. I have never managed. I am Osiris." Osiris left introductions at that and looked at me. "Did we arrive at a bad moment? I suppose Lacussy already explained the situation to you." "Yes, was all that true?" "I have not concealed anything from him. It was all the truth. I wonder, Lacussy's emotional type, where he respects someone, he believes in them without question. Has Lacussy even questioned why you went through such lengths to make us forget our lives as safe centers ourselves? I don't know why you would do that, or how you managed to pull off such a crafty ploy. Just what kind of magic did you use to make it possible? Did you intermingle with Nominal, the enemy, to create your spell? Is that why you wanted to hide it?" I knew I couldn't bring up my lingering questions up front. I would need to come up with a roundabout way to confirm what motivated Osiris to wipe the Soldesiacs' Nerus. Something was off about him. I remember him being the serious stoic type, but with a goofy interior. In that sense, he reminded me of Nerus. But there was no underlying humor or warmness in the way he was looking at me then. I had figured he wouldn't be happy with my little ploy. He had wanted to keep his plan a secret to everyone but a select group of people I wasn't a part of. But I hadn't expected such coldness once I returned. What was it about his plan that was terrible enough to warrant looking at me like that? Why would you need to hide anything, Osiris? I'm sure everyone would be grateful if they knew how much you've done for us. My eyes widened when I finally noticed I had spoken without thinking. Both he and Lacussy were taken aback by my words. However, Osiris closed his eyes, and after a moment he sighed and forced a little smile. "I'm sorry, Oblivion. I am glad to have you back. Still, I can't deny I'm surprised to see you again. Since you struggled so hard, I figured you'd choose to stay with Nero here." The reason I returned involves Nerus, actually. You see, he told me he wanted to quit being a great safe center. I think at least for the upcoming battle he should join the Descendant side and participate in the battle. Did I hear that right? Yes. Oblivion. Are you certain that part of your mind didn't get wiped? Perhaps the part in charge of your common sense. When I was the only one suggesting it, it didn't seem like a ridiculous proposition. Which is why I was waiting for Nerus to back me up. However, when I turned to him, I realized he was just as confused as ourselves. It occurred to me I might have been off on some of our assumptions. It wasn't anything I couldn't fix, but I would need to make a tactical retreat first. To not lose my nerve, I spat out the first words that came to mind. I know how it sounds, but Nerus is one of the greatest warriors among the safe centers. With him on our side, we have an overwhelming advantage. Osiris' expression didn't sell. He wasn't blind to not realize the value of Nerus as an ally. What bothered him was the notion of a great Satan turning on his kind, and Nerus' reaction wasn't helping him entertain the idea. Excuse us, ourselves, we just need one moment. Yes, I agree. Nerus and I held hands and walked to a corner away from everyone else's prying ears. Oakley, what are you thinking? I thought the best course of action would be to help the descendants. Neither of us want the world to end, right? Yes, that is true. Remember the conversation we had back when we were playing that fighting game? Nerus closed his eyes and nodded. Back then he claimed he wanted to quit being a great sixer, but that wouldn't be enough to attain any of the lifestyles he described shortly after. If he kept working for the state centers, then his life wouldn't change much. Perhaps he'd have more or less free time of performing a different task every day, but his lifestyle wouldn't suffer any radical change. Deep down he understood this and had the resolve to fundamentally change his way of life, but now he was hesitating. I understand why you think this is the best course of action, but he lowered his gaze, his ears pointed forward, looking for the right words. I struggled with the thought of fighting my fellow state centers. When he got sick, I decided I wouldn't participate in the fight at all. I wanted to prioritize spending what time you had left together. The situation has changed, but since I was okay now, we could have had a long future together ahead of us. But because of the second battle of Aeon, that future had come under threat as well. However, that didn't mean it would be easy to turn against those he had dedicated his life to guide and protect so far. So Nerus still chose to not fight at all. I understand, Nerus, I'm sorry. I should have asked you this earlier. If you would rather not get involved, that's okay. I'll take care of it. I might be weak compared to you, but I can hold my own when it comes to fighting. It's not that, but... Nerus sighed, lowering his ears. Tell ourselves I will help. I will steel myself for the upcoming battle. Are you sure? We went back and forth a couple of times, me saying he wasn't obligated to participate in him insisting he was willing to. Eventually, Nerus got tired and grabbed me by the snout to shut me up. I am participating in the discussion. He then dragged me back to ourselves before letting go of me. Ourselves raised an eyebrow but kept silent. But even after Nerus informed him of his decision, ourselves didn't seem very convinced. I managed to get him to promise he considered it. I took that as a good enough victory after my miscalculation earlier and moved on to the next topic. In any case, I had a conversation with Narino I think the two of you should know about. Before I succumbed to my illness and had been spying on him, we ended up having an interesting talk. He told me that he thought the Aeons were heretic and that he wanted them gone. Both ourselves and Nerus raised an eyebrow. That doesn't make sense. Was he trying to trick you somehow? I don't know. Narino was a strange creature. If he was lying to me, I couldn't tell. He seemed angry, so I thought there might have been some truth to his words. What do you think, Nerus? It's the first time I'm hearing of this. I have to admit that even among the Wayside Sisters, we don't see him very often. We don't understand what he's thinking. I suppose it wouldn't be impossible for him to be harboring ulterior motives. Did he say anything else? He said he wanted me to participate in the fight, that I would know what side to fight for. If he somehow knew who I really was, then he might have guessed I would come back to you. I suppose that makes sense if he is an enemy of the Aeons. Maybe he wants to sabotage his plan and thinks I'm an important part of that. That was the best case scenario for us. There was another possibility, which Oceros quickly realized. Well, that could be what he wants you to think, and in reality, you are an important piece for the Satan to succeed. Ourselves. Or that could be what he wants you to think, and in reality, you are an important piece for the Satan to succeed. Ourselves. Do you think I come all the way here just to stab you in the back? My apologies. That's not what I meant. But that you might be an unwilling pawn and employee of his, Oblivion. I can't deny that possibility. The Senate leader closed his eyes and hid his hands behind his back. I will need to discuss this information with the others. You are dismissed. Yes, thank you for listening, ourselves. Whether Nerus would be allowed to participate in the battle is also to be decided. I gave him a little bow and went to pull from Nerus's sleeve. He was already spinning on his heel before I even did that. Lacussy rejoined us on the way out. So that was Oceros. He falls more in line with what I expected. So that was Oceros. He falls more in line with what I used to expect of the descendants. Or I and Lacussy failing to meet expectations? I chuckled. You two are, how to say it, cuter than expected? Let us go with that, yes. Well, did things go the way you wanted, Obly? It went as well as I could have hoped. I understand if Oceros is hesitant. I share the feeling. Still, I hope he allows us to help. This may be a bold suggestion, but could we not show up to the battle regardless of what he decides? I suppose so. I giggled to try to pass it off as a joke to Lacussy, but it was an idea worth considering. Our future hung on the Satyrs losing. And the descendants refused our help, then so be it. We would fight for our own sake. In the heat of the battle, it would be much harder to refuse our help. Would they rather let Nerus fight nominal, or was becoming a target for the both of them? The answer is obvious. Are we going to stay here, Obly? I was planning to return to Nerus' mansion now. I would prefer that. I would like to sit down, but the furniture here is too small to accommodate me. Well, I see. Let me take you there, then. Lacussy eagerly guided us back to the room we first walked into. The descendants nearby seemed to already have grown used to our presence. In fact, some familiar faces got closer to greet me. I figured that word of us meeting with Oceros and making some deal had already spread, and they realized Nerus' presence wasn't anything to be afraid of, although they still seemed to be keeping their distance from him. After exchanging a couple of greetings, I apologized, saying that I was tired and wanted to go for now. I promised them I would be back earlier tomorrow. That's over here. So I get to see Sax again. Kind of. Well, he was Sax, but apparently there was some kind of a amnesiac. And actually Sax was Obly originally. He was able to recover all of his memories as Sax and as himself from before that. So he still remembers Nerus, and he was happy they got to see him again. And after some convincing, Nerus he was very relieved that he was able to reunite with Sax. well, it's Obley, but he is Sax really. So so apparently it's been 200 years since Sax died, and now Sax technically is back as Obley. So Obley was originally a safe sitter, but apparently he died. He got reincarnated as a safe sitter, Sax. So once he died again, he became a descendant again. And he managed to keep all his memories, which went against what Osiris did. And once he tried to make sure that the Soronesians did not have the memories. So that's what I believe it is. So you got to see Lacusti again, though this is about 1,000 years before we saw him in Body and Lisa's time. So that's a big example of these descendants being immortal. They can live for thousands of years. So here's a Lacusti from nearly 1,000 years ago. I mean, so we get to see Lacusti doing Body and Lisa's time, and then here we are seeing him just now, 1,000 years in the past. So, wonder how it's like being a descendant and living hundreds of years like that. I wonder what it was like for Nerus living 200 years with Sax in the bed. You know, just being dead, or maybe in a coma, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I wonder what it was like for him these past 200 years having Sax's body in his bed. So apparently they had a battle at Aeon where after Sax died, Nerus did not participate. So there's about to be a second one coming. So Obley decided to take Nerus to Osiris, who I believe is the leader of the descendants, and convince him to let Nerus fight for the descendants against the safe sitters. And Osiris was very cautious about that. Having a safe sitter fight with the descendants. And Nerus was kind of ambivalent about this, because by doing so he would go against his kind, his fellow safe sitters. But eventually he agreed to fight for the descendants. And Osiris, it seems like he was still thinking, but it seems like he was maybe willing to accept Obley's request. So, and Osiris did not expect Sax to have all his memories, so it surprised him that Sax had his memories. So and while we were in Nerus's mansion, we got to see this person again who, with a time egg. So So, I mean, he was in the mansion, but nobody could see him. So, I guess it's kind of like just observing everything going on and seeing how this how things can connect. You know what I mean? So that's all I have for now. We'll continue with chapter 2 of Nerus next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.